Will you join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No one can say you haven't made a contribution.
I've had dogs that couldn't train as good.
I'm not sure that's a
I
compliment.
feel better now.
I didn't say, I did too, I feel better. Calm it down.
Okay, just we have need of a closed session at the end to discuss negotiations, correct, Carl? Or do we need one today? I'm just simply asking.
Yeah, we could just briefly fill them in.
It's up to you.
Yeah, we can briefly let them know what's going on,
Okay,
where we're at.
and we might mix in a little personnel just in case there, okay?
Yeah.
So I just want to let you know what was going on. Andy?
Sorry, I didn't mean to distract you right before you were supposed to.
Oh,
talk.
that's all right. We could call on you first. Okay, Derek, go ahead.
Fine.
Yeah, the other way for one.
So we're gonna have an airport day out at the airport, obviously. Saturday, September 30th, we're gonna have a car show, airplane displays. We're supposed to have the life flight helicopter. I imagine it's contingent on emergency. First time ride / flight training demo from Brown's out of Terre Haute. Hot dogs, chips, the whole 9 yards. That is September 30th.
What time?
Day? Time?
You made us,
Still in the planning.
don't you spill your coffee.
Throw it in your face. Okay. In addition to that, we're just very early stages, but Brown's has expressed some interest in having a satellite flight school out of PRG. We're kind of feeling that out, seeing what obligations we have. I'm sure they're, it's contingent on them on interest, but I don't foresee any major concerns with that. Basically, they'd fly an airplane over to Paris on their own costs, and then instruct anyone that was signed up for a flight that day, and then fly back. So we wouldn't have any hangar issue. Basically, they would use the public space to brief or debrief, I imagine. That's about it. So early stages on that. I just want to make you guys aware of that. We are awaiting actual bids, written bids from our Beacon project. That Beacon project is what it sounds like, same kind of thing of what's holding back the FAA from their decision on the last hurdle for expansion project. I think that's about all I got. I did, just so while I'm talking here, Andy's got something Bob put a spreadsheet together a while back. We talked about it just briefly of our real estate taxes and issues like that. I think there's some opportunity for us to kind of level the playing field and probably bring in some more revenue for the county by looking at that and then engaging Dina and seeing where we can go. But that's just kind of something that I promised earlier as far as info there, and it's after you kind of peruse it, it's pretty telling as far as
It's on some
potential.
businesses and the property taxes are paying
Right.
a little unevenness.
What's what and who. There's not a lot of. Well, yeah, that's not any. It's all basically inside the city. It's commercial property. Those commercial properties, there's a pretty large discrepancy on what people are paying per acre per square foot, and so once you take a look at it, it's kind of surprising. So something we should. I would recommend we look at a little deeper, but this is just kind of the early stage, and I wanted you guys to see that. So. That's all I got.
And we do have, just a segue back to the agenda, Barrett is up for reappointment, and he is on your agenda, okay, to the advisory board. Okay.
Did we decide on a 3-year on that?
Yeah. Yes.
Nothing, Phil?
Nothing as usual.
Carl?
We're going to executive session on the negotiations. Last night about 9 o'clock, I stopped up at the courthouse and to see the lights on the courthouse, and there was 3 of them out. And when I got out and started walking around, Bob was there walking around looking, so yesterday afternoon, he replaced one of them that was burnt out with one of the new LED lights. And it, obviously, it's not the orange color, it's a different color, but it's brighter.
But it was working. So
That one was,
But
that
he's
he
got,
put in,
he's got one more to replace at this point.
3 more.
Well, I thought he got 2,
He did, but he only put one on.
put 1 on, okay.
So-
He's got 1 more to replace.
So he's got one more, and he said, well, do you wanna get more? And I said, yes, they're not working,
Okay,
let's get them fixed.
Yeah.
They're, he told me what it was, $700?
that'd be,
Either 400 or something.
No, they're 400 apiece.
400, yeah.
Phew.
Yeah.
But once we get them all
But
replaced,
they're-
we can change
they're
color.
LED
But they're 20,000 hours or something, I mean,
Yeah,
they're,
it
Yeah,
lasts
less burn,
a
less
long
juice, and the
time.
whole 9
it's the
yards.
next generation's concern.
Yeah. Plus the cost just from electricity is substantially
Right.
less, so.
Right.
Next year.
So he's he's working on that, but it definitely brighter
Okay.
than.
That's not offensive?
No,
Okay.
I mean, they
Well,
all,
I mean-
Some people are easily offended. I
That
don't
red-
know.
I mean,
Is it yellow?
Feel
Is it
like-
blue? Like what's that mean?
it's
Is
a
it
blue.
kind of
It's
blue
blue.
color light?
Yeah, I don't know, I like the orange myself,
I
and
know,
just,
that's why, that's what I was.
but half of them are gonna be the blue and half of them gonna be orange. That's,
Eventually they'll all be the blue.
Right.
Cause,
Yeah.
'cause once they start going out, I mean,
But I
I have the
noticed
same
it-
problem at my place.
right, and driving around on several sides of the courthouse, you actually can't even see the courthouse with all the trees and everything. You know, them outside, the one, you know, they're getting so big that you
They're
don't
not
see it.
shining on corners.
Now, when you're coming down Main Street, you know, right there by where Penny's used to be, or Savoy's, I guess now, you know, the trees, the trees, there's where the Christmas tree is, you can really get a good view of the courthouse. And that's where the blue light is, or the new light. But on the other side, it's a lot of them, you just can't see the courthouse.
I told all the other night, I'm waiting for football to get over, and I made a couple of laps around there. One time I went around, the light was on, and I was going around the second time, it went off.
Well, they come on, we were up, who was up there with me that day? They were coming, they were like coming on and going off.
Yeah, well, I
coming on
talked to
and
him
going
for 20 minutes up there, and that one went off half a dozen times. And another one came on for a minute, then went off, so he's gonna get them all fixed up. And then he also asked me,
Switch, turn them off and on, you know, he said, look at these guys. they
That's a
don't
pay
know what the
position in
hell
the
they're
county. Yeah.
he asked if the clock guy came last week.
No,
And I said, well, he was supposed to stop by. He said, well, I was on vacation last week, I didn't know whether
no,
he
he
came.
didn't, well, not, I never got any emails.
Yeah, okay,
My impression was the last meeting, he was supposed to come that week, they told me he would, and I
Right.
sent him an okay, I'm fine with
yeah.
what he wanted to charge, and welcome in my world, nobody showed up and didn't call or anything, so I'll call him
Yeah,
again.
right. Did we, on the Kreckman building, did we get that finalized? We haven't,
we haven't had a closing yet?
No, Dick James called me Friday afternoon and asked for
Uh-oh, that's gonna cost you.
official board minutes authorization to get rid of it, so I put that in his mailbox this morning at the courthouse.
It's imminent. We're just
So it's,
waiting.
Okay.
it's on the way.
all right. And I was just looking here at the tax levy, I got this the other day, but I hadn't looked at it. On the general county tax, how much of an increase is that? I know if we,
We just divide it by 15 divided by, that is, that can't be right, hang on.
Must be less than 5, doesn't
well, last year it was higher, but,
it? Was that right?
yeah, it was like 6% last year. If I remember right.
It is 1.7% increase.
Okay.
The whole thing, I was gonna go over this a little
Okay,
bit, but,
I'll
no,
just-
the whole increase is 94,178, and that's 2.7% increase. Okay? And a lot of those, obviously, toward immunity, because of our new demands on lawsuits, we had to beef that up. we talked about it earlier in the year, Social Security, we were gonna beef up a little, mental health, asked for more, and then, the county highway department, CATB, and federal aid, the state predicates what they give us, the closer we get to our, what we should be collecting as far as the rates. So that pretty much accounts for the 2.7% increase.
The ambulance service, 345, is that
That's
for
the
next
same as
year?
last year.
That's for
yes.
next year.
Yes.
No, it's more than,
Well, what they actually collected though was 336.
Right.
The actual amount that we levied last year was 345.
okay.
Okay? So for whatever, I didn't increase it.
So
So the
essentially, it's the same.
It's the same.
Okay.
The
right.
proposal for,
It-
that we
And what
need to consider is
They were
the
asking
same.
for more,
It
right?
increased it by nothing.
Were
And
they asking
actually,
for
they
more?
made no formal request for it to
Okay.
be increased,
Okay,
and I didn't ask.
okay,
Okay.
all right. Okay.
So with everything going on and, you know, their expansion and everything else, whatever.
All right.
So I figured that would be,
Okay.
that's just a
They
proposal.
understand,
That's
right?
why I want to get it out to you relatively early this year so we can all take a look at it.
But the general tax for the county is at 1.7,
That's that first column.
right?
The general county tax.
Right.
That's a 1.7.
That's the money that goes into the
General fund, that goes into Fund 100, yes, Carl.
Right. That's, but then last year it was
It,
overall,
what happened, that was much larger, it was like a
Right.
50, because we were given an incorrect equalized assessed value. And it actually increased a lot more than what I was told, so
okay,
that's why it fell off. The year before, it was up, then it fell, and then it went back up, okay?
but the overall increase is 2.7.
Overall increase of
Of all
all
these
those
levies.
items is 2.7, yes, Carl,
That's good to know.
that's fine. Jeff,
Anything right now?
okay? Augie,
This morning, Bob was doing some wiring on the basement doors. So, and I've scheduled the installer, September the please don't hold me to the 5th, but I think that's when it is. The automatic door openers. So, pretty soon we'll bring that project to completion. I had a demonstration for some new election equipment recently, and it was, someone used the word next generation. It's next gen election equipment, and
Russian made stuff.
yeah, it's made by
The Borscht Corporation.
in America. And so sometime I'd like to sit down with the main budget guy and talk to him about that. And
What's that?
that's pretty expensive.
I know Carl stole it.
Was it along the lines of what you were thinking, or quite a bit more?
No, it was right in there where I was thinking. Yeah, and may even ask them to come and do a demonstration, and maybe we could do something during a study
That'd be
session.
good.
Or,
If Lud and Dan can figure out how to use it, then we know that we're good
It should be
across the
good.
county. and-
All right.
Yeah, I got my flip phone, so.
Other than that,
And as we talk,
Go ahead. I think it's important, what you told me, the reason you feel we need some new equipment, some of the stuff.
yeah, our equipment is it's just Band-Aids now. It's old technology. It's wearing out. Old technology that's wearing out. Now we can get by. We'll get by for another year, but I really would like to see us take a look at an investment for the
Before you have trouble with.
before we have trouble for
Big trouble.
all of the
That's-
county.
Do you have an estimate on price? Any idea?
In round numbers, 150.
150?
Yes,
Dollars or
Yeah,
pounds?
yeah, $150.
$150,000.
I'll take you all the way.
Right there.
Okay.
and where did you propose, will that all come out of the 800 fund?
Well, there used to be Yeah, I don't know where it's gonna all come from.
Uh-oh, guys. Uh-oh.
How does that work? So these are the electronic booths themselves, and so each polling place gets one or two of them. Is that how that works, or?
Well, yes. Each polling place gets one. Basically, what it does is you go to a touch screen and you make your choices, and it prints out a ballot. And then you take your ballot and you put it in the tabulator.
And so is that a requirement for us as a county to have the option for electronic voting, or how does that work?
It's not a requirement to have it like that, but we have to have a ballot to insert.
Sorry, to have an electronic unit per polling place, is there some sort of requirement there? Since
Well,
the vast
there-
majority of people still do the standard.
Yeah, well, the only requirement for electronic would be for handicap accessible.
Okay.
Touchscreen, hearing, vision,
I'm with you. Okay.
you know. That's the actual requirement, but the technology is moving to this type of a touchscreen, print your actual ballot. You can see it when you're, voting, print the ballot, you can look at it, and then you put it in the
You just have
tabulator.
one per voting place, right?
Yes.
No, the actual electronic.
Yeah, I say reader, the thing that reads each ballot. That way you got a paper trail. That's why you have the ballot, right?
Yes.
Well, I guess my question was, most people still grab their ballot, take it to the booth, and so.
Run it through.
So we have one, and basically per like ADA is why we have electronic units.
That is
Because
correct.
if we wanted to outfit the entire county, soup to nuts with the electronic one, we're talking about probably $1 million or something ridiculous, right?
No.
If everyone voted with one of those machines, and we had the same number of devices, and we have curtained metal booths, it would be 10 times more expensive. We'd have 10 times more machines than
Well,
what we're
okay.
buying, is what I'm saying.
Okay,
That's neither here nor
I
there.
follow you now.
I don't like those machines.
Do you have a thought in your mind about the transition period?
From now until then? Yes.
Bud, you handle that.
They'll
You
put
handle
that
that
paper.
one.
Jerry scratched his head over there.
Okay,
Write that one down.
do you have anything else, Augie?
No, so I just wanted to put that out there for you, that I'm gonna probably be approaching in the near future, obviously gonna be a next year's budget item, and there may, with the recent bill or budget deal that got passed, I think I saw some money in there for equipment. I'm going to Springfield just probably in the next 30 minutes for a 2-day meeting.
Oh,
And I hope to find out more about that when I'm there. So,
We'll stay up there on the
Thank you,
campus.
Augie.
Ooh,
Is that it then?
I think so, yes.
yeah, more kit.
John, do you have anything for us today?
Drainage ditches still aren't doing a whole lot.
No, there hasn't been much need, has there? Dan?
Nothing, not growing, weeds aren't growing, so I haven't worked a lot.
They're about all that's growing though.
Cameras work,
Don't even have the weeds growing anymore.
camera working, so we're all set.
Yep.
Man, we're like deep,
Easy Street.
all cotton, brother.
Thanks. Andy?
I, got a couple things. Did they bring a bill to you for Augie, for parish refrigeration?
Yes.
And that was, they moved the thermostat from the Assistant State's Attorney's Office into the State's Attorney's Office. They've removed quite a few radiators upstairs, ones that didn't work, they've repaired the one. They took the one out of the girls' office, the State's Attorney's Office, where the secretaries are, because they couldn't control it. And they spent a lot of the winter with the windows open because it got so hot in there.
Everybody those suits.
So. So
Leave it in there.
Maybe not.
anyway, so they took that radiator out.
Full weight
and
drums.
he told me, they said, when we took some of those valves out, there wasn't a stem on the bottom, it was gone in a couple of them. So, it didn't matter how hard you tightened it, it wasn't gonna close at all.
So they gotta pull the whole radiator,
Well,
I can't talk, radiator.
Radiator.
You are having dysfunctional problems.
Is my face looking to have a stroke? They have to pull out the entire radiator to change the valve.
To change the valve, but you know, they've got so much heating and cooling capacity in the units that they've got up there. They really don't need the radiators that much upstairs. They've got plenty of, the heat pumps will handle most of, and that was, I don't know who put the original ones in, but they replaced them with the same size because you use the same air handlers in some of them. And you've just got somewhat of an overcapacity upstairs in heating and cooling.
I guess I didn't realize those were all doing both heating and cooling. for all
Heating and
those.
cooling, so they, you really didn't, in some of those offices, you don't need the radiators anymore. So they were gonna replace some of the,
I mean, cost-wise, there's probably an advantage to using the radiators if they're working properly.
I guarantee you the heat pumps are more efficient than the radiator. I think at some point, it would be a good idea to look into getting, I mean, you can basically, the whole upstairs can be climate controlled. In fact, I said when he was up there, I said, give me an estimate of what it costs to tap some of that into the main foyer upstairs and put some return airs and some vents in there, and basically you can heat and cool the entire upstairs. It would be climate controlled. And so he gave me an estimate on that. He would tap off of all the existing air conditioning units and the heat pumps, and for $4,000, if you wanted to put that in up there, you could completely climate control the upstairs. So, but they've gotten rid of quite a few of the radiators. We fixed some valves. They fixed a valve in the circuit clerk's office downstairs that they couldn't control. And that was one he said didn't have the valve. The bottom of it was gone, so they put a new valve in there. Now they can control it. And I think it was about $1,700 to do all they've done up there so far. They still got one more radiator take out of Marty.
They haven't let hers get in.
Huh?
Hers is still in there.
Hers is still in it. We're gonna take it out. She's had it all. I mean, she hadn't used it for years. But she said she'd really like to have the space where it is, so, and we're taking out, putting down the basement. If you ever want to replace them, you can. I don't know why you'd ever want to. That would be going backwards. You actually ideally would like to, at some point, climate control the upstairs and the downstairs. Something to look into in the future, I think. More economical.
Next generation, that's what they call it.
Whatever, I mean, you guys are all, got window units hanging out and they're noisy, inefficient. Make a mess on the, you could put some units in there that I think would probably eventually pay for themselves. But that's down the road. I've got other problems that I'm gonna bring up before that. I'll get back with the clock company. I don't know what, they were supposed to come through and they didn't. I did get to Arnie Johnson, and I think I'll just read what his letter said. And I've talked to about everybody about what his letter said, but as we discussed, we're recommended having our firm perform an updated condition survey of the building envelope of the courthouse. Roof, exterior walls, window, bell tower. The last one that they did was in 2005, and he said, I think we really need to update this report to see what condition the building's in at this point. Preventing water penetration from the outside is the most important aspect of prolonging the life of the building. For the budget of $8,000 that we mentioned to you on the phone, WJE would provide a one-day inspection by our experienced historic preservation architects, likely accompanied by a younger associate to assist in inspection and note-taking. Inspection would be from grade using binoculars as well as through windows higher up in the building. Photographs and notes would be reviewed in the office with Rich Koziel and myself who have worked on the building previously. We would then develop a written report that describes the condition of the different components of the building, along with a prioritized list of maintenance and repair work that's needed for each in the coming years. The work items would be accompanied by a rough cost estimates and time horizons for your planning purposes. The document could serve as a somewhat as a master plan for maintenance of the exterior of the courthouse. And then he asked me, let him know how we should proceed, and I've asked everybody, I believe, but Carl, you don't have an email, I haven't called. But, I think that's what we need for the building, is a prioritized list with cost estimates on what these things are gonna cost. He gave me he said, and this is a ballpark until we do the study, but he said he thought the roof would be somewhere around $400,000 or $500,000, which is a little better than what I was afraid it would be. I don't know whether that's good news or bad news, but, he said, he goes, I need to look and make sure. He goes, that may not be what you need to spend your first money on. There may be other things you need to. I don't know what they'd be. I don't know, I think it's a good idea to have them, to spend the money, to have them come look and tell us what needs to be done and how much it's gonna cost.
Do we need to vote on that, or? we just-
It's less than 30 not
If you want to, we always can vote.
to.
I think we all
I do
kind
love
of
a good
just-
vote.
I agree.
Individually,
I said,
we-
yeah.
It's not on the agenda,
Yeah, so you can't get
and
this meeting.
the building committee normally handles that kind of
Well,
stuff.
so if we don't need one, I think everybody's in agreement.
Okay.
I think the building
Just do it.
committee was all in agreement on it. I
Yeah.
remember.
That's good enough for me.
Okay.
You specialists
Fired
in this
up.
stuff.
And there wasn't a meeting, it was just he individually.
He just, yeah, I mean, I've been talking to him, we did that in 2015. 2015 was when we did the, kind of the 5-year patch job. So I think you need to get planning on what the next step, I mean, there's some holes in the roof that they patched. The gutters are sufficient, but they're only, everything's patched. There's nothing fixed long-term on the roof. So you better to be proactive on that type of thing than reactive. So, unless somebody disagrees, I'll go ahead and set something up and have them come do that.
Sounds good to me.
Well, I
Insurance
guess,
line?
another thing we need to find out if we can do another patch, or whether the next step is replace. I think last time they told us
You
replace.
said you need to replace. They patched it. I mean, there's places where their roof had rusted through in places. They went through and replaced a lot of the slate shingles, and from talking to them, I think, I mean, there's different materials you can use out there other than slate. You don't get the longevity as you do, I mean, that roof's the original roof on the place. If they can get another one to last that long.
100 years.
Yeah, and they'll
Next
reuse a lot of those slates, they
Their
take them off,
generation, not the next generation.
and you break a certain amount of them in the process of taking them off, but
Metal roofs now are what, 50 years almost?
probably, dude, that was, if you take care of them,
That's
they'll
it.
last.
I see one of those going up. See,
How much would just one of those big blue tarps cost?
I'll call Rural Kings.
See those too.
We may need that before. It's kinda tacky.
I volunteered to put it up there.
Yeah, who was up there?
Of course, you've been up in the air, so it's no big
Yeah, a
deal.
little different.
Yeah,
That's
just
scary.
Get your chute open by the time you hit the ground.
From that high, no. Unless you got help.
So that's it, as far as I know for buildings, insurance.
I
You
know
wanna
it's
go on the
in-
insurance, cause I thought you did, probably came up with the best idea.
That's kind of what you expect.
All right.
I gotta try to remember how we broke it all out. I don't have that stuff in front of me. Long story short, we basically came up with the county covers 2/3 and our employees cover 1/3.
For the non-union.
Percentage, basically.
A percentage.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
gonna be a percentage this time.
33.33 percent, 66.66 repeating percent. I can write that out if you'd like.
Okay.
Now,
I saw your email, comment, whatever.
so that, more expense on us, but it seemed like it was a reasonable amount. for to ask our employees to cover and for us to cover.
And if I can interject,
Please.
that percentage, we're gonna have the increase this year on the insurance.
Right.
And going with that, it actually splits the increase half between us and half between the employees. So the employees will have to pay a little bit more and we'll have to pay a little bit more. And if you went to half, it got right at that 2/3, 1/3, and we kind of like the idea of sticking with keeping it on a
Right.
percentage for
It
down the road.
simplifies down the road as we have changes. You know, the way it exists now, there's a discrepancy, and some people are, you know, if you're trying to find the mathematical advantage as far as having the county cover the highest percentage of your costs, you can shop around the plans. If you wanted, you know, I just think in percentages or fractions. So that's, you know, this is equitable across all three or two or however we do it. It's an easy thing to explain to our employees. So that's the other piece, is kind of keeping things simple. That was another driver behind our decision as we sat there on the committee meeting.
Derek, and that also presupposes that you're gonna eliminate what? Option one on the land also.
Yep, so the Cadillac goes away completely. We have one PPO and two HSA.
It may be that we have to keep that available for certain members because of obligations that we've made, but we're not
Prior on the, yeah.
right. But as far as anybody staying on it, no. Okay?
Right. And the whole reason why we keep the PPO around in the first place is trying to help our employees that have large prescription costs. That is the better deal for them. So until we can come up with some other way to make it so they're not completely disadvantaged, we're gonna continue, you know, as far as I see, having that PPO option. But, you know, in the current state of affairs, you know, next year could be a whole different ballgame. So.
Any questions about that? Anything else, Andy?
I think that's about it.
Okay, as far as the agenda, I think that covers most of the major items. Are there any questions about the agenda, since most of them are housekeeping? We're conveying on number 18 quite a few, executing quite a few deeds on behalf of our trustee.
You gotta read all those, number 18.
Well, I'm gonna find out how I can do that a little
Say,
bit more interestingly, we'll see. You want me to read them all?
No.
No.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can get tongue-tied there.
Well, we've seen experience here.
We hope to have a rough draft of the budget ready by the next study session. We still have several Fund 100 budgets not in. I won't identify those. I will simply say that we're missing a few, and I will contact them in the next day or so and find out where they're at. So we'll go from there. But Don does have a majority of them. He's entering them in the computer, and as soon as I have something, I'll get it out to you. Okay? As far as where we're at on the budget, this year we're at 83.33% of the year. And we're at, I'm sorry, I'm sitting here trying to guess,
83.3%.
of the year, and we are at about 71% on income and 78% on expenses. Okay? And that 78% includes the last two payrolls. I went ahead and added that in to give you an idea for the end of the month. Okay, so we're not gonna get surprised by another $170,000 at the end, okay? After this month, there's 4 payrolls left. There should be some money left, but as we get closer, I'll have a better idea. Income is still down slightly from the state. They're still behind on some reimbursements, sales tax. state's attorney, a few other departments, where hopefully they'll get things squared away and we'll do a better job. Any questions about that? Okay, then I'd entertain a motion to go into executive session for negotiations and personnel.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Derek moves, Andy seconds, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We will go into executive session here in a few minutes as soon as Dan gets back.
Maybe I'll slow with that. Oh, man.
Bye, Gary.
Can get there in a minute. Get on those
Okay,
good
we are back out of closed session and we're in regular session. Is there other things to discuss? John, you said there was something.
Yeah, we'll bring that up later. I don't think it's for today.
Okay, all right. All right. Anything else to come before the meeting today? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Andy seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Well, I can't
Do we have